Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, delighted to be here. I hope you've had an amazing week and are gearing up for an even better Friday and weekend. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what you're working on. Today we'll go back to our Chrono app, the app that's supposed to help content creators like myself, be more efficient with their YouTube streaming. It kind of looks like a to-do app, if I may say so myself. It may be the simplest app that we've done yet, but it is using AI and LLM features, and we're going to be adding even more today. We'll be adding image generation with DALL-E. We'll have this app suggest thumbnails for us according to the agenda for today. The agenda for today is not super packed, but we will be having fun. Just yesterday, OpenAI introduced yet another model, a model that thinks for longer, but therefore answers better, is able to create like a snake game in 5 minutes, while it would take me about 5 days. If I want to make it good, probably 5 months. And if I want to make it in Godot, maybe 5 years. But we won't be doing that today. We will be asking the OpenAI API for image generation to generate some thumbnails depending on our agenda. In this app, we've used the OpenAI integration through the Vercel SDK, but today we'll be hitting OpenAI directly because the Vercel SDK is not supporting a feature where you explicitly get back images generated by DALL-E or whichever other program, other LLM, other feature. ChatGPT and DALL-E may not be the best for image generation anyway. A lot of them seem to be very popular on Discord, so Midjourney and some others have a Discord community and channel, and you have a Discord command, a Discord bot that will generate the images according to a spec that you have, which is quite interesting. But it's still interesting to me to integrate something like this. There are quite a lot of tools that allow the user to upload an image and then generate some content based on that. So here's a picture of a puppy, tell me the breed. There is a lot of content on that everywhere. So I am interested today to see how can I programmatically hit the image generation APIs that OpenAI has. Hopefully you find it interesting. Let me know what you'd like to see next. This is the thing that inspired me for this Friday live stream, so that's why we're showing it. I think it's gonna be cool. So I do think, I will say again, that wrapping ChatGPT or wrapping any LLM may not be enough nowadays. You should have had your pitch like a year or maybe a year and a half ago and already gotten the funding and already have a prototype or something out the door if you wanted to catch that wave. Now just saying, all right, it's ChatGPT, but I have a specific great prompt for you may not be enough. It's ChatGPT, but it's powered by some user data. That is cool. That is actually what Apple seems to be trying to do with Apple Intelligence, and a lot of focus on the privacy and how you'll have like the private compute and all of those things. Way too advanced for today's live stream, but I am very curious to see how we'll be able to wrap ChatGPT today to create something that I think may be useful for us. So this is my warning. If your idea is wrap ChatGPT or an LLM and I'm gonna make millions, you've probably missed the train, but there's still cool stuff you could do, and knowing how to work with LLMs is important. And let's see if we'll manage to save me some time and generate some interesting thumbnails or like sketches for thumbnails that I can get into Figma and then have something great for you guys. I go to Figma like all the time. We've created so many thumbnails. Every different live stream, every different video has a different thumbnail. If you ever catch me reusing a thumbnail, please let me know. It will mean that I'm phoning it in, but I'm trying my best to give something interesting for you guys, even though I do know that some people don't even look at the thumbnails that closely. Anyway, let's move on to a quick recap to what this app has been about. We've done a bit of React, we've done a bit of Astro. We've done quite a few things since we last touched this app, which you can find the link in the description. You can log in for free, and it's chronokit.vercel.app. We've deployed this one to Vercel. Let's as tradition defines, check if the login flow actually works. Login with Google, the only auth provider that we have for this app. We've shown others in different apps. Once you're logged in, you're able to create a live stream for you. Each live stream has its own agenda, and you can add or delete items as you please. You can tick them on and off. This persists in a Turso SQLite database, an SQLite database distributed by Turso. So all of this is well and good. We also have the edit functionality where, according to your agenda, let's see if this still works, we're hitting OpenAI to suggest a description for you. So let's see. All right, so 3 suggestions based on that. You can click each one you like, and then you get like a little pop-up. You can see here. It tells you, oh, it's copied on the clipboard, because people get annoyed when you overwrite their stuff. But they also get annoyed if they need to like select a specific section there. So just click copy paste and then edit your description, and then you're good to go. And I do have my cute little Steam game here, just to make things a bit more interesting, but it is blocking the nice toast that we have. So anyone, we can pick the one I showed before, can pick, you get the toast on the left. Now my face in the way. Oh, well, you get the idea. And you may notice that if we try to generate again, it's instant, seemingly instant, because this time we're hitting the cast. The agenda hasn't been updated, and therefore we are hitting the cast response from OpenAI. If we haven't cast a response, if we haven't had a prompt that includes this exact agenda for this user, then we ask OpenAI for a couple suggestions, but that's the most expensive thing in this app. That's why we're casting it in our Turso database. So if the key is the same and the key is generated according to the agenda and the user, then we just get it from the database, which is both cheaper for us and better for the user because they see it again. And maybe you can give them like a refresh button or something like that. Or add like some delay so they feel like they're getting something different. But I guess you can just update the agenda, and then if you try to generate again, if you try to suggest again, then you'll get a fresh one. So that's how you hack the system and get even more different results. That shouldn't be too expensive tokens wise. Image generation is usually more expensive, which may be why there aren't that many tutorials doing image generation, or people ain't focusing on that. They're like, how do I make money if it's that costly? Anyway, so let's try to do something else. Let's have the user upload the image. Let's not create images ourselves. And in general, ChatGPT and the LLMs are usually better at generating text content or content that looks good and authentic, or even creates a snake game, as we saw, than it is generating great images that aren't outright copyright theft. So in the news yesterday was the new model for ChatGPT for the O1, the one that thinks more. Nothing about images interestingly enough. I wonder, there is ChatGPT integration for this. So let's see if I just say, please generate YouTube thumbnail for this. And let's see if that's good enough, if that's going to be similar to the thing that we'll be creating today. Will it even reply this preview model? Because it thinks, it doesn't draw. It's crafting the content, it's crafting the thumbnail, it even knows that it's a thumbnail. Interesting. All right, so it didn't do what I asked. It just ideated of what the thumbnail concept should be, so it didn't generate an image. In some models, I think this exact prompt would have resulted in an image, so let's see. Let's try this one. This one also takes image attachments as well. So yeah, with 4.0, you can generate images. Let's see what it gets. And maybe afterwards we can see how it works if we are gonna give it an image as its inspiration point and tell it, try to tweak this one. Oh, why is LLM? All right, so you can see it can almost spell YouTube and do the YouTube icon, like quite blurry, but maybe sometimes this is enough to give it to an artist and then create something actually amazing. I don't know. I kind of like the play icon in the iris. That's all I like about it. It looks a bit crazy. But again, this is about learning, this is about the concepts, this is about how we're gonna make this work. Not that the models that we're using are gonna be generating great thumbnails that people can just download and upload to YouTube and then use. They are meant as a learning starting point and inspiration. I guess the users could use them as inspiration of how they should create their thumbnails if they haven't created like a Figma thumbnail like format that I have and I adhere to. All right, so first things first. The same app we have running locally here. I'm already logged in, have the same thing. And much like in this edit section where we have the suggest button, I want a generate thumbnails button. So that's the first thing we'll do. Give me thumbnails button is what I said. So we have the suggest button here. Let's see how that works with the Svelte inspector. We can just get in there. Sparkle button, like AI button. Somehow we have arrived to the point where sparkle means AI. It's kind of like. So we should get inspiration from this to figure out what we would do. As well, Sonar is the library we're using to show the toasts. That's fair enough. And we're doing like tons of things on click. We make the fetch request. Quite a lot of things. Like, should I just steal this button and put it somewhere else and then get going? Let's do the old copy paste here and go one by one. And I suggest thumbnails. And maybe what I call it, give me thumbnails. Just for the fun of it. And in the UI, let's see where we're actually using this. Live stream forum. Fair enough. Why does this think that this is null? Just a number. Oh well. So we are using this form both when we create a new live stream and when we're editing. That's why we're doing this if ID ternary check, if check here. And it could be outside of the form, really. Maybe we can have like a thumbnails section. Build file here. That's in the section. What does it look like? The section title. Just copy all of this. None of this. None of this. It should be getting some props. Livestream ID. Sure. So type props equals and let's my DP this, and then make sure to render it somewhere here. We should probably add the section name here. Yes, set this thumbnail section. And yeah, let's just call it ID here. Livestream ID, I'm not sure. Going back and forth on this. Doesn't matter that much. All right, so there you go. We have something here. And let's look at what that button is doing, because the suggest button is doing quite a lot. So just a button. It's a button type button for some reason. Because it was inside the form. It's not inside the form now, so it should be fine. And on click, we do something. This is the suggestion section where we copy the suggestion to clipboard. We won't be doing any of that now. So let's get rid of this altogether. We don't know what we'll be getting back for now. So let's just have this. When we click the button, let's see what our handle click does. We have a little state machine of whether we haven't requested anything, whether we're in the loading state, the delayed state, or there's been an error. And it starts in the idle state. Great. And we have a little timeout to not show a spinner unless there's been a bit of a delay, like 500 milliseconds is what we're doing here. And that's because when we're hitting the TrueShot database, it's so fast that it would be annoying for the user to see a spinner like for a millisecond, 5 milliseconds, and then have it disappear. That's just good UX. But if we're already trying to get completion, it says here, then, so this is thumbnail generation state. Usually the endpoint for tags is called completion, like chat completion or something like that. That's, I think, why we've called it like this. Maybe we should just call it suggestion state. Generation state. And generation delayed. Better term, I may switch it into the other component. Thing we'll be getting back thumbnails. Or generated thumbnails. And we don't know what the schema will be, so we'll figure it out later. The live stream ID we will be getting, we will be doing like a toast in the end, I guess, maybe not. So let's not have it for now. So if we're not already in the loading or delayed states, then we get in the loading state and set a timeout to go into the delayed state after 500 milliseconds. Then we hit our own API endpoint. This is the suggest AI endpoint for a suggest description, but now we'll be hitting a new one that we'll be making today to request an image. And what exactly will that endpoint do? I don't know. What should we call it? Like suggest thumbnails nested into the other one? Could be. That feels like fair enough. And then, who knows what we'll be getting back, we'll figure it out. But if we have a response, then we clear the timeout. It will never be delayed if it has been delayed already. And then, if the response is fine, we go back to the idle state, or else we go to the error state. But in the success here, it's going to be like a console log to do set some thumbnails to render in the UI. And we can log the response, I guess. Maybe not. And as cleanup, if there is a timeout, we clear it up when the component unmounts. If we go to like a different page, all good. So on the UI side, that's fine enough. Even if we manage to do the backend and get the thumbnails back, nothing is going to render, but that's fine. We'll get like the little console log, and then we'll move on to the section where we actually render the thumbnails in the page. But we need to implement this. Let's go to the agenda and see what we need to do. And we're cooking with gas. So this endpoint we need to create. Let's have a look at the previous suggest endpoint. So in SvelteKit, if you want something without UI, an API route or a request handler or something like that, you have a magically named, specially named plus server.ts. Always in SvelteKit, your routes should reflect the user's path. So where you want the user to go to actually consume your UI or your server response. So in this case, we want them to go to /API/suggest/ thumbnails is going to be the one we create today, but suggest is the one that works with the descriptions here. Let's see what we're doing. We have an AI response repo to abstract even further whether we're using Vercel's SDK or hitting directly OpenAI or hitting Claude or hitting anything else. And that repo is an interface that says we have a suggest method, you need to give it a live stream, and then you're gonna get a response back that's gonna have a suggestions array. So it all looks great. It looks like that's the same thing we want to do, but actually we want to hit suggest/thumbnails. So what do we need to do? We need API suggest thumbnails, API suggest thumbnails in directory. And in there, we also want a plus server.ts, so we might as well copy this one. And as JSON, we're getting the live stream ID. Then we're hitting the database to get the live stream. All the live stream information that we may want to use, the description and the agenda items, which is fair enough. If we can't find the live stream, then we return a 404. But then we figure out what the response should be. And it's not going to be this. It's not just going to be suggest. Let's go to our AI interface. AI response repo interface here. It just has this suggest thingy. And let's say that we want a live stream, and a live stream can have like a title, a description, and an agenda. On this one, we didn't need the description because this is a suggest description endpoint. So we could be using the existing description. Actually, that may be a good idea, but we just didn't. Now, let's say we want to expose generate thumbnails. We could say suggest thumbnails. Maybe that's better. And it gets the title, the description, the agenda, because we know that the prompt is going to be something like, we have this live stream, this is the description, this is the agenda, give me an image that if it looks like this, which doesn't look great, I'm happy. It may look worse. So I think that's an interface that I'm happy about, but of course, this is not the schema that I want. Let's create another one. But what would the thumbnail look like? I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll change it later. And what we have is a DB implementation for AI responses. And you can see our suggest logic. We have like a big prompt that is relatively generic, but dynamic in that we add the title in and we add all the agenda items in. But mostly just information. YouTube description should be like this, blah, blah, blah. If I were able to use the new model that they released yesterday, the O1, or was it OI? O1 model, which thinks more, I think it would be much better for that part, for the description part. However, I'm not in the preview, so I cannot use it here. Let me know if you'd like to see a live stream where we see if we can do anything cool with that. We also have Trivia Train as well, which is a game show that takes your answer, and if it's not exactly correct, it tries to think whether it's correct enough, like some leeway for spelling, or if the classic example I give is the flower girl from Final Fantasy. If you say Aerith or Aerith Gainsborough, which is Aerith's full name, then both should be accepted. But in the database, I say Aerith. Aerith should be accepted. Anyway, this is like the sort of critical thinking, but not really, that LLMs I think are great at. And apparently, the O1 models are even better at that. So I'm excited to try it out for my game show games. Anyway, this is not what we'll be doing today. This DP implementation is not happy anymore because we also want suggest thumbnails situation here. So suggest thumbnails, it takes a live stream and returns, who knows what it returns, we'll figure it out. But unfortunately, I guess it should be doing the same thing in that we want to cast the response and not spend tokens every time. We'll do this eventually. So let's do like to do sync the cast first. But now I'm curious to how we're gonna hit the OpenAI endpoint to generate images. We cannot use Vercel for this because as it stands now, Vercel's AI SDK doesn't have anything like a bit different to the one that we'll be using today. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. What would we call it? I don't know. But we do know that the endpoint we want to hit is the images generation one. And we can have the OpenAI client instead of using the AI SDK. And I guess we want to call its images generate, which I guess just hits this with some parameters. The model defaults DALL 2, so we'll use DALL 3. Then we need a prompt. Then we'll need how many to generate, and default. Oh, DALL 3 only does N1, only does one image, so you need to call it like 3 times. Ugh. Interesting. The quality, we'll see. Whether it should return an image URL or a base64 encoded image. If it's a URL, it's only valid for 60 minutes after the image has been generated. So we should fetch it and store it somewhere else, which sounds like too much trouble. So we may actually be asking for the JSON. And the size, there are a few sizes. None of them are the size of a YouTube thumbnail, interestingly enough, because the YouTube thumbnail should be 1280 to 720. 1.7 something, and I wonder like how much is 792, right? 1024. Close enough. So we can use that one. We can use this one. And the style, vivid or natural, vivid, hyperreal, and dramatic images. We can try both. And the user, we could also try, which is great for moderation. All right, so let's bring in the OpenAI SDK. Let's see if we have it already, because I think we don't. We have Vercel's AI SDK OpenAI provider, but we want literally OpenAI's own node implementation. This one, which we can bring with, we're using PNPM here. So PNPM at D OpenAI. And we can even go to NPM. Check this out. Let's see how popular this is. Like, wow. People are cooking with this library. And let's create the client. Let's say that our database repo actually has, maybe let's call this OpenAI AI SDK provider. Not clear. And change this parameter. Here and here, most importantly, in our hooks, in our dependency injection hook, maybe we can alias this here. Or maybe we can go straight to this file actually. Export it like this. And have a comment here saying meant to be used with the Vercel's AI SDK. And we'll create another one. Which is going to be meant to interface with the OpenAI API directly. And we'll create it like so. Will it not autocomplete? No, because the casing is a bit weird. We'll give it the same API key. We shouldn't omit it because on build time this will be passed in, and if we don't pass it, there are some libraries that that check the environment at runtime, not at build time, to get this environment variable. But at runtime, it may not be in the environment depending on where you deploy or if you run on the client or something like that. But explicitly putting it here means that at build time, this is going to be a string. And that's fine. I guess the complication is that if you want to change your OpenAI key because you leaked it on a live stream or something, then you need to do another deployment. And you can't just go to Vercel and change the production value or something. But that's by the by. OpenAI direct client, I don't know what to call it here. But it feels like that this is fine. But we also want what does it return again? It returns OpenAI, right? Cool. So it's here that we'll want to do stuff with the OpenAI client. And this should be happy now. This is a real thing. This is a real thing. So what's the problem here? That this doesn't correctly implement the interface. We'll get there. Sure. So again, can't use Vercel's wrapper to LLMs. We need to use OpenAI directly for today's episode. That's why we did all of this to get the OpenAI client. But now we should be able to use it to generate images for us. A cute baby sea otter. Wonderful. Could there be anything more wonderful? And image data, what will data be? So this is the image response actually, and it can give you multiple images, but it does say here only one is supported for DALL 3, which is what we want to use now. Right. So just copy this, why not? We want this to be async. Bind this and all the good stuff. This OpenAI client, image generate, the model that we want, the prompt. What's the prompt gonna be? We'll figure that out. Oh. Should we copy this prompt? So we'll have the agenda at this point. Maybe we can just get the agenda or the description. Not sure. Let's do agenda because it's easier for now because we've done it before. We may need a return character here. Guess it will have it because it's a template literal. Good. So we have the prompt. This is the thing that would be using as the key to our class. Can use that one. Sure. This is a response, it's not the image. And then, I guess it always returns an array of data. And we can use the default of URL to start with and see where that gets us. The size, we said that we want to change. We may change the response format later. Quality should be fine. HD, just standard. But yeah, size should be this. It's closer to an actual YouTube thumbnail. Very close. So size should be this. String. And the style, we'll play around later, and we should be given a user ID here. We do have the user ID at this stage. Cool. So we have the response. And then we have some data URLs. Some URLs that are actually URLs. Because response format is URL. I guess it's gonna be base64 encoded JSON. Interesting. Not sure how that's gonna be like. But what we want to return, I suppose, it's response data. Or maybe just get the URL out. Not sure. Let's map that, take out the URL. And then, now that we've seen how this API works, let's say that what we actually want back is an array of strings, really. Oh, this may be undefined. Whoa. So I guess we need a reduce here. Let's say that image URLs is gonna be reduce. It's going to start with an array. This reduce. We'll have the accumulator. And let's say if image URLs length more than 0, return the image URLs, else run error. Let's generate thumbnails. Right, so what is the reduce going to be doing? The reduce is going to be doing, if there is a URL, push it and return the accumulator. And we need to specify that this returns a string array in the end. And everything is happy. This will only have string values because we filter out this, which I guess sometimes is undefined. It doesn't know if it's going to have the URL property or the base64 encoded property. Interesting. So I could get both of them, I guess, here. Is it going to be, yeah, this. Future-proof it. And what's this going to be? String. Great. Cool. So it's going to have something that we can use as the source of an image. And we can console log the response. So back to our server. Here. We want to suggest thumbnails. This does have the description, so we could use it later. And thumbnail URLs and return thumbnail URLs here. But what's the problem here? We did claim that maybe there is no description here. Happy now? Yeah. And we're not using the description. Anyway, let's use the description too. Why not? Here in the prompt, here, and say if we have a live stream description, then let's copy this. Or else it's going to be null, empty string. Good. So my guess is that this kind of works. So on the front end, let's have a look again. Suggest me some thumbnails button. We click the button, we get a response back which we console log. I guess we know that the response is going to be then get the thumbnail URLs from here. But this, where should I type this? Here? There must be a clever way to do this, but I don't know it. I'll try to do it. So type, what do we call it? Is return type of a thing? I'll see if it actually works. Too much JavaScript. Too much TypeScript. So this response so it's going to be this. It's not happy? Nah. All right, trying to be too clever here. I take it back. Let's just say it's gonna be this. And therefore, we're gonna go here and say that this is gonna be this. Bring that back. Right, so this should be an array of strings, which we can console log for now. Good luck to us. It's gonna cost us some money, who knows. I press the button and I expect in the console to eventually see a spinner and then eventually see in the console some URLs that we'll be able to visit. That OpenAI will be kindly hosting for us for up to 1 hour. It's trying. It's trying hard. All right, so we got 1 back as expected. Is it a real thing? What? Public access not permitted, they say. Well, that doesn't make sense. Happy weekend, Mikey. How are you doing? Right. So this isn't the actual URL. This is the URL. All right. What was the thumb winging again? Oh my god, the text. The text. All right. It's so busy. Question is, this one eats more tokens. Yeah, so image generation is expensive, and I said previously in the stream that I suspect this is one of the reasons there aren't many tools that are doing image generation. Of course, there are like the huge tools that Midjourney that are all about image generation, but there aren't many tools wrapping OpenAI or any of those tools to do their own thing, because it's hard to make money when you're eating up so many tokens. Well, it's easier to have a service that is kind of prompting the ChatGPT text completions and charge something for that that's going to be beneficial to you. And even then, I'm saying that even that model, you may be a year or a year and a half too late if that's your startup idea. You should have already had it out. Yeah, so classic problems like this finger is not even attached to anything. But then I guess it's consistent that this person has 3 fingers and 1 thumb. Ugh, creepy, the more I look at it. The creepier it looks. But anyway, like this is a proof of concept. Can we make it work or not? Let's change the schema a little bit. The prompt. All right. So this is it. This is the prompt. Now, instead of manually putting the thumbnail in here, let's switch to showing it to the user, and then we'll be doing even more cool stuff. And we'll be doing that later, because we saw that this image will only live for 1 hour. Then they take it down. And I guess we have the time to put it in our database or something, or we could just say to the user, download now, or you're going to lose it. We're not going to persist it. But especially since we'll be casting the response and we'll be getting this, I think we'll need to go with base64 and calling it. I'm afraid that's the answer. All right. So let's render this image instead of manually finding it in the console logs and going there to confirm it works. This step. So we have the thumbnail URLs, and I guess we just need some state. So generate it. Or we could say thumbnail URLs and move on with our lives. If we make it here, we're in the loading state, we can say thumbnail URLs is empty array again, empty data array. And maybe that's why. So generated URLs. And call these response thumbnail URLs. And I guess we're awaiting this, so maybe I shouldn't be doing this. So just thumbnail URLs again. We don't need to do anything other than reassign this to the resolved thumbnail URLs from here. That should just work. And then, what did we do in here? in the order suggest. We were putting them before the button. Interesting. We will put them before the button again. I guess it makes sense. I guess it makes sense. So if we have thumbnail URLs, the autocomplete in here, doing like a little grid, cute. Get the index too. And we do know the width and the height. I will want to render it closer, smaller, but we know that the width and the height from the API reference that we're using is this. So close the it, close the if. Close the div, then close the if. X +1. All right. So let's see, will this actually work? I think it will. Do we have like anything responsive anywhere? Let's say that at LT it becomes like this. All right, good luck to us. Ka-ching! Thanks to every JOHNNIFY Premium supporter for allowing me to burn some tokens here. One of the inspirations for JOHNNIFY Premium is to provide value, of course. Most of all, I think it should be more expensive. But it was also to put a limit to my budget. All right, that's... that worked, which is great. That looks like something. Yeah, why have like a... Why change the grid? I'm not gonna save now, because I'm gonna lose it. But it looked decent, it looked like a thing. But again, it's gonna expire. I think we need to do the casting. Maybe it needs to be like a separate thing. If I press again, I'll do it in the big screen. So let's go to localhost. Plonk, plonk, plonk. Ka-chink. All right. So I did tell it avoid text, and yet it wants to do something. But it looks fine. Looks fine. Then you go into Figma and do something. I also said minimal, and they're all like so busy. But then again, you've seen my thumbnails, I don't know. You can tell me if these are good thumbnails or if they are too busy or not. Let me know. Anyway, ChatGPT thinks it shouldn't be this. It should be this. Better, worse, who knows? Could be closer to what Kurzgesagt is doing. And it does have like less text. It references that we're gonna have a download button at the end. Alright. Not too bad. But the important thing now will be to add some gap to do the caching. So let's actually add it as a dedicated section here. But first we need to do the base64 encoded images. Let's do two things at the same time. So we'll do cast responses later. Now we'll try the base64 encoded responses. And just because I'm curious, let's go to our DB implementation yet again. And here we're saying if we have this in the response, we put it here. And it is a string, but what does it look like? I'm not sure. If it doesn't work, I think it will magically just work. But if it doesn't work, I will want to console log and see what the response is. Right. So let's look at the docs again. We want to say that the response format should be the B64 JSON. And let's say style natural. Maybe that could be a toggle actually that the user can play with. So here, response format, JSON, and style, let's do natural. And let's try again and see what we get. Catching. My puppy is looking at the door and I wonder if he wants to escape. She's kind of sleeping. All right, so we got something back. Wow, it's a lot of image information. All I wanted to do is look at how it starts. All right, so I think if we said that the source is like base64 encoded here, then that would work. So again, image source, not source set, image element, base64, and then here. It's like if we say data, colon something. And then put this, then it's gonna work. So if I change this, value too large to change, no. Why? And value too large to edit. Should have copied it. Impossible to copy. I guess we can try it again. Anyway. yeah, I think this is the format that we want to keep just because it stays forever, right? So let's try that one. Using the image URL is better because it's gonna actually be less kilobytes for the user to download. I think this is like 1.5 more base64 encoded images versus an actual image format unencoded, not encoded in base64. And it's just easier, right? You don't need to prefix anything. You don't need to worry about it. Just a URL. You can go there and get it. But we know that the hosted versions, the image URLs, expire in 1 hour, so we need to default to that one. So if we just prefix this, maybe it will just work. And yeah, I don't want to console log anything. What type of image is this? Could be any of those, but I think it will just work in any case. The response, no data, the preview, sure. Ah, PNG, all right. Cool. So I will press the button one more time and see if it's just gonna work. And then we'll do the casting. Puppy back in bed. All right, it worked. All right, we are awesome indeed. So we also switched to like low fidelity mode, and it looks horrible. I don't know. You see like the Chrome browser. You see something. You see something. But yeah, I'd rather not do the natural one. It doesn't look natural to me. And maybe add. I just say avoid text. All right, so we've proven that it works. Let's cast this so we don't have to do it every time. And before, it was kind of similar. Based on the prompt, we were checking the database to see if we have used that prompt before. And I guess we're hitting a different endpoint with this prompt now. So if we hit the generate response here with this prompt, then we'd get something different. So we may want to key the cast key with something, but we'll see. The idea will be the same. We could also create a separate table for the cast images there, which may be sensible, but I'm not going to do that. Or a different column, like what type of suggestion it was. But I want to keep the cast simple, like you could use Redis for this, not Turso, for example. And you can do complicated stuff with Redis, but I think easiest is key value, that's it, key value store. Fast key value store. Anyway. we're gonna check if we have a prompt like this, and we could key the prompt with like thumbnail, and then we're certain that it's fine. It's just like a few characters more, so maybe that's a sensible thing to do. So maybe we can even call it and use it. Right, so we'll have at most one result. If we do have a result, we return it from the cache. Press from the cache, hot from the presses. I wonder, cast AI responses. We are saying that the response is this. It is not true anymore. So should we just create like a different table for this? Let's create a different table for the fun of it. So let's say that we move on to this section. I've convinced myself to not reuse the same table to cast the image responses. Just because I did nicely type the response here. So for this one, let's call it the cast generations, image generations, generated images, I guess. And I do want to start it in a JSON field because I do want this to be an array actually. So this one, let's say, like, even though we're not using this anywhere else, is this like too complicated? It is. Going back and forth. So no inline type here. What do I want this to be? I want it to be image URLs, which is an array of string. That's it. Image URLs. That's all we need. Cool. Still takes a prompt, still has a response, still has a created at, but we call this table cast generated images. And in here, we don't do anything with the thumbnail cast prefix and all that. So it says thumbnails, we're gonna be hitting cast generated images, get the response out from cast generated images, where the cast generated images prompt equals the prompt. Simple as that. Get one. If we have it, then return this. There. And this thing is just something that has image URLs. So it's not what exactly we want. This just returns the image URLs. return this, return the array of strings. And before returning the result, we want to put it in a database like we did with the description. So here, on a successful response, we want to insert to cast generated images the image URLs. Like so. Great. So now casting will work. If we run the migration, if we generate a migration and run the migration. So pnpm generate migrations, db generate migrations. Thank you. We generated a migration, created a new table, prompt, response, created that, great. No need for indexes, indices, anything like that. Looks good to me. Run the migration. All right. Casting demo. Now it's going to take a while. And we're going to get some monstrosity of an image, I am sure. But then we should be hitting the API. We should be hitting the database and getting the response fast. All right, so we hit OpenAI, we got this. It avoided text, I would say. It looks all right. It's a bit suspicious that the way they've implemented the wider format is that it still generates like a square, but it has like a bigger background. That you know, some PM was like, we promised landscape images, widescreen images, right? And some engineer was like, well, for some reason, this model, like our models can only do square images, so we cannot do that. We don't have the technology. And then someone was like, well, what if we overlaid the AI image, the generated image, into a white color? Delivered, right? Genius. Sure. So I like this. Question is, if I hit generate again, do I get it from the cache? Yes. Awesome. I refresh here, press this. We get it from the cache. It is like a bigger payload than just the description, like the description from the cache. These are instant, but this is a bigger payload. We are asking our front end to deliver it as well. So it's tricky. It's taken a while. It feels like it's taken longer. Like we always get the delayed reaction, even though it's cached. But I guess that's why you need to optimize your images, right? But awesome. Cool. I'd say we delivered. So we are getting an image based on the live stream title and the agenda. Awesome. We are... Does this not save on click because I'm on the edit menu? No, does save. We are hitting the cache if we've already asked OpenAI for this, so we're not going to go bankrupt. Great. And we do get the same one every time. If you want to get a different one, then you can cheat the system and change your title, I guess. Change the title, change the agenda. This is what we're using as the cache key, a combination of title, description, and agenda. So if you change any of those, we're going to request the N. If you change it and change it back to what it was, and we have a cast result, then we're going to use the cast result again. So awesome, we've implemented this nicely. Now we want a handy download button for every image. Of course, there is a download button in that I can right click and save image as, and that's just going to work. But since we're here, Wow, big images as well, 2.4 megabytes. Since we're here, does work. Just wanted to open it here. So what if we want to create a button that the user can click? Like they don't know that right click exists, they don't know what this is. We want to have a download button. Usually you'd have a download button to do like a CSV type of situation. You have like a view that you're filtering, you're sorting, you're ordering, you have a nice table, HTML table, and someone tells you, I want to download this as CSV, export to CSV. And then you'd have a download button. That may make more sense. But we will try to implement now. So you'll get the inspiration. We'll be talking about how you would do that as well. Cool. So should this image have a download button? Not sure. I can hit this without fear anymore. And do I want like a download icon on the top right? I guess. So let's get there. In here, maybe all of this is in div, a relative div. And then we have like an anchor or something that has position absolute, top 2, right 2. And let's see how that looks. All right, so it's here, but actually we want this to be a button. And the size, we want to be icon. And the icon, let's have it be the sparkle icon again. All right, looks decent, looks good even. Just like an AI image generator, too many, not buttons, thumbs. Right, so it looks nice. Should it be like a ghost icon as well? Outline. Let's see how that looks. Looks all right. Do I have a download icon? Yes. Oh, we're cooking. Beautiful. But now I press the button, it does nothing. Well, it gets you to this href because I've kept it for some reason. I don't know why. I think Copilot did something funky there. But I guess I want this to be a download button. And the name should be live stream thumbnail x+1 again. And then, will the href be this? Will it make it work? Let's see. Bang. So this just works, as you can see here. As you cannot quite see here. If I'm not full screen, I go to the desktop. You can see that I downloaded it without the weird download icon there. Why does that work? Because the href is a base64 encoded image. If it weren't, if it were a link to the image, then it would only work if it was a link within our domain. If it were within our domain, then it would auto download. If not, so if it still was hosted by OpenAI or like a different CDN somewhere that's not this domain, somewhere that's not localhost in this case, then the browser wouldn't accept the automatic download. And with the SvelteKit, we could create a server route to proxy through to that URL and get around that problem. So the href would be pointing to our SvelteKit proxy, and therefore the browser would be like, okay, it is an internal URL, it is an internal href, so I'm going to download it, even though behind the scenes what would be telling the user to download is something outside of our own servers. It proves that it's within our control, within this app's control, if we're making it the proxy through there. But now that it's already a base64 encoded image, we don't need to do anything. We just need to put a download attribute to a button, and it just works. Sidechain button that magically becomes an anchor. So anchors can have the download property, and then like the complicated thing of it only works with same origin URLs, including the blob and data schemes. We're using data for this one. And the name that we give here is the name of the downloaded item. So I'll have another look at this. Just in the edit. We have the icon in the corner, and it downloads just fine. And the reason for that is, if we inspect this element, you can see that it's an anchor element, a tag, that has an href of a base64 encoded image. And the download attribute, the value we give the download attribute is going to be the file name that of the file that gets downloaded. Again, if this was the OpenAI hosted URL, so whatever it was, the HTTP CDN OpenAI / whatever PNG, it wouldn't have worked. We'd need to create a proxy in our SvelteKit app to hit that one, hit the internal URL, like / OpenAI images here, a relative URL to us, an internal URL, same origin URL, and that endpoint would be taking care to get all the URL parameters, I suppose, and pass them to the OpenAI endpoint. I guess the spec ensures that the user doesn't do anything too naughty and download anything. I suspect there would be scams where hackers or malicious parties would be getting people into trusted websites, like maybe even like Facebook or whatever, New York Times, like BBC, I don't know, like any trusted website that they use. And then they make them do something that manipulates DOM or something that makes them have a download button that downloads something from their malicious servers that's like a virus. But that's by the by. The important thing is, if it's a unencoded base64 encoded image, you can just have a download button with an anchor tag, like so, or else you may need to do some busy work in order to proxy through the image download, for example, through your own servers, have that be a local link. All right, a lot of information there. Hopefully you found it interesting. Image edit and variations. So not with the new models of OpenAI, and nothing that's exposed with this reference. You could create image edits with DALL 2 and image variations, but you can't with DALL 3. I wonder if they just don't want to use it. And I noticed that with some versions of ChatGPT, you can attach an image, like the 4.0 version, but the one they just released, the 4.0 preview, you cannot attach images yet. So I'm not sure if they're trying to deprecate that feature or it will take a while before it returns again. But I am wondering, can you make this? And see what they'll manage to do. And also, this is free, no tokens on my side. Well, I do pay for ChatGPT Premium or whatever they call it. So not that free. Let's see if it will mess up the letters or if it's gonna be fine. Wow. Here's the cleaner and more minimal YouTube thumbnail, designed for a tech audience. Thank you, so much better. I guess you can read live in SvelteKit. Wow. So it managed to read what is there because it repeated it, right? It couldn't have just transposed this. Interesting. Anyway, maybe this is why for DALL 3 they're like, we're not gonna enable this anymore. It's gonna look a bit weird. But the last thing, we did say that these tokens are expensive, but I want to play around with this more, maybe play with it internally. What we could do is hide this feature behind a feature flag. So that's the last thing that we'll do today besides our demo. We've managed to implement our feature. We have the thumbnail image generation. Maybe it needs a bit more time to cook. See if we can try to generate a few different images, try to measure the costs, how many tokens exactly are we burning through. There may be a few things that we want to iron out before we make it to public. It's also a relatively expensive operation, so maybe we don't want to put it in public. And even though we do have the OAuth login, so you do need to be logged in to use this. It's not just an endpoint that bots can spam, which is fair enough. But regardless, maybe you don't want your users to be exposed to this feature. It's not good enough, it's not ready, it's too expensive for you, don't want to maintain it, it will cause them trouble. You can have many reasons. But the answer to all of them, without having a feature brands, a long-lived brands that every engineer hates, and actually merge the code, all the code that we did today to production, is to hide this behind a feature flag. So if you're worried about the performance or the costs or anything like that, you could actually toggle that feature on live for like an hour, see if it's overwhelming your servers or your tokens. And if it is, then you turn it off without a code deployment needed at that stage, and you're safe. If it outperforms your expectations, you can keep it. That's the concept behind feature flagging. So always keep releasing stuff, keep adding code, like in secret, in stealth mode. You ensure that the rest of the app still works as well. And therefore, you don't let your code base go stale. So I didn't actually prepare. I should prepare a mini talk about this, about feature flagging, because it's an awesome way to develop software. But it can be as easy as what we're going to show today. So all the work we did today was adding this thumbnail section here. This thumbnail section component. All the functionality is included in this. The other endpoint you cannot hit if you're not logged in, and it's like too tricky to actually try to abuse. So in this page, if we just remove this section, you'll never see it, and you can still have the code in, but then you have unused code, and you shouldn't have that. But if you want to feature flag it with environment variables, you could have a, well, you can go to your .env.test first and say public, because we'll be hitting it client side. Maybe we can prefix it with feature as well. And then in here, we can say if public, I should have gone to my .env.local, but I need to do this off screen. So committed in the repos is a test file that doesn't leak any secrets, doesn't have anything of value, but you can use an expression to create your own .env files, your own environment variables. So I'm gonna say that in my .env.local specifically, the test thumbnail is true, and that is gonna help Svelte know that I have an environment variable for public features such as thumbnails. So it will try to look into this at build time, because I've mentioned that it's static, which is fine. But if you do want the functionality of your watching over the feature with your PM, and then you toggle it without a deployment, then you need to make this dynamic, I think. And then it will be checking during runtime to see if that feature is enabled or not. Right. So let's use that one. But remember to end this if tag. Close this tag. Close harder. Let's have a look. What is SvelteKit saying? Environment variables, dynamic. You need to bring in env and then do env something if we want it to be dynamic. So you get env from here, and then you do env this and check. Is this true? If yes, render the thumbnail section that has your awesome feature. If not, or whatever, then you don't render it. It's hidden from the users, they cannot abuse it. So that's pretty cool. But I do think I will make it public for now. So forget this ever happened. Well, don't forget. I think that's cool information. But locally, it will look like this. But in production, it will not exist because this feature is not there. But I should go to Vercel. And add it as an empty environment variable. Is Vercel down? What's happening? So in this project, in settings, in environment variables, let's add public features such as the thumbnails with no value, make it available everywhere. Now that it's static, I can set this to true in the future and trigger a rebuild, and then the feature will magically be live, but we showed how you can do it with dynamic environment variables as well. So now that we have this, we can safely commit everything we've done. So let's check, do we have any cheeky console logs remaining? No. Console tables, inspect, anything like that? No. What do we have? We brought in the OpenAI because we used OpenAI directly on this one. We have a database migration, forecasting the OpenAI responses, all of those things. We added a new environment variable. Let's call it feature flags. We've made our AI repo take both the OpenAI provider meant to be used with AI SDK that Vercel provides, that's like LLM agnostic, and an OpenAI client to hit OpenAI directly because we needed this for our image generation feature. We've tweaked our database implementation of the AI responses to do the image generation. The interface also has changed. New table for cast generated images. I kept it into the same file. You could have a different one. I guess this could be like the cast LLM responses or something. Doesn't really matter. The new client we created, two clients. So we have the OpenAI provider with a comment. This is meant to be used with Vercel directly, and this is to use with OpenAI specifically. This is to be used with Vercel, which is a middleware, which is an intermediary to OpenAI, and this is to use with OpenAI directly. We've created a server endpoint that gets the generated image URLs, thumbnail URLs. We've added a component here. It seems we have like some stuff we never used, like this. This. And this I don't particularly like. Maybe that's the thing we can put in the repo. I'm not sure. In the schema. Image URLs. Doesn't matter. I will keep it here. It's fine. I will think about it later. Doesn't really matter. All of this component that is doing all of this logic, it's this component here. The feature flagged section for whether to actually show the generate thumbnails button. And I know with DALL-E 3 we only get one, so maybe I'll change this. So AI suggest thumbnails. And I think that's it. We commit and we deploy. Sync this and deploy to production. And that's going to be it for today. We'll do the demo. See if we've managed to deploy. And call it a day. What have we done today? In our local app, at least, we're able to go to the edit section, and much like before, we were suggesting a description based on the agenda of the day and the live stream title. We're able to suggest thumbnails, or at least the outline of a thumbnail of what we'd want today. Because this is usable enough, but you probably want to bring this to your designer or go to Figma and touch it up. Maybe you have like the rough idea, all right, this layout looks nice, then you'll use it. I don't know, maybe hopefully the tooling will become better in the future. And for users that can't be bothered to right click and save him as, for users that want to be prompted, oh, it's a good idea to save this, we've added a download button that just works. You click, download it, no worries. And importantly, we do hit the CAS for the responses. So you'll see, because we are rendering a huge image, it still takes a while to show, but we get the same one every time. And if we were to add a new item, like CAS and responses, CAS responses to our Turso database. Now that the agenda is different, the prompt that we send to OpenAI is going to be different. So this is going to take longer because it's going to generate a new image for us. Let's see if that's any better or not. What do you think? I'm taking bets. Those take a while. My dog is ready to escape. All right. I like this one better, to be honest. Maybe the casting and Turso made it look cooler. Spotify and Wi-Fi logos here. Cool. And now, of course, if we try to suggest again, it will give me the same result. More obvious than the suggestions here. Cool, and I can download this one if I want to save it. Good idea. And everything just works. However, we've only made this feature available in localhost, so you can zip your code to production in stealth mode, or maybe feature flag it. Maybe you can say, all right, like in the next hour, the PM can play around with it and see how it feels before you release it to the public. Sometimes some feature flags get exposed and it's breaking news. But let's see if Vercel did manage to deploy this. So it did manage to deploy, but indeed, if you do click the link that you find in the description, then no thumbnail generation feature, because it is hidden behind a feature flag. The suggestion feature for descriptions still works. That's not under a feature flag, but the thumbnails, we've talked to the product owner. We said that we're going at the right pace, but we'll quick it a bit more before we release it to the public, before general availability. So we sold feature flags as well. And that's it for today. This is the chance for chat questions if you have them, or else we'll renew our appointments for Tuesday. Cool. I had fun today. As I said, making money wrapping OpenAI, we're a bit too late on that one. A year and a half, maybe too late. But there will be opportunities to use LLM for great features. I am sure. Image generation may not be the one, but it's very, very important to get exposed to the endpoints, get exposed to the tooling, know what's available. When you have these ideas in your head, that's when you go to your cycle, you go to the gym, you walk your dog, or whatever it is you're doing, that the inspiration will strike and you'll be like, oh, what if I put this and this together and created something new that would be successful? So I am quite excited for to play around with the O1 models, which spend more time thinking and therefore have more accurate responses, like PhD levels, like great at the pub trivia style coding quizzes that you may find in a coding interview. It's fun stuff. I wonder when the point will be where we get something similar for generative AI, which has its problems, but we'll see. When that time comes, we'll try again and we'll talk about how far we've come. Especially since these models are doing more and more UI, it's quite amazing that just doing the image is hard. Like creating the React app that looks kind of nice is easier for them than creating the image wireframe for the React app. All right, enough for today. Thanks again to everyone for watching, especially people in the chat keeping me extra company. Have a lovely Friday evening. Have an amazing weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye.